How hard can it be to make your own crochet pattern, right? I've adapted almost every pattern I've ever made, but to start from scratch, well, have you ever done it? I'm going to take you start to finish with me, from deciding what I wanted to make to having to rip out some mistakes, maybe more than once, to the finished object. And at the end, I'll tell you some of my lessons learned. I decided to improvise my own pattern for crocheting a cowl. Here is the background for this. I have made 2 cowls. I have my Bruges Wedge cowl, which I call my woodpecker cowl, this one, and then I also have what I call my baby alpaca cowl, which is here too. This is a Lion brand pattern. I love both of them. I wear them both a lot. I am joined in this by my son, Peter. He always is wanting to wear one of these. He doesn't wear them out of the house because I don't let him, but he'll come home from school and get one and put it on and like wear it, get in the shower, right, takes it off, showers, gets out of the shower, puts it back on. And when I go to tuck him in at night and say goodnight, he'll still be wearing it. I'm like, dude, take off the cowl. Like, you don't need to sleep in it. But they're really, really cozy and he just loves them. So I'm like, I need to make the boy his own cowl. So I bought some yarn and it just came in. This is from Alpaca Warehouse. It's category 5 weight, 50 grams per ball, 55 yards. It's this light green color. Really, really liking this. It has like a little bit of like cream sort of in it too. You can see that a little bit. It's really nice. So I have 3 balls of it. It came in a 3-pack. I got it off Amazon. This is the exact same yarn that Peter bought me for Christmas and I made this cowl out of. So I know how much yarn, right, that will produce. It's bulky, so it works up really fast. I made this in one evening and like I finished up, I think 20 minutes the next morning. Like that's how fast this worked up. And that one of the days right after Christmas, it may have actually been the day after Christmas when I made this because I was so excited after getting the yarn to make it. So I know I'll be able to whip up a cowl pretty fast for him. But this one looks a little bit girly to me. Not ridiculous, right? But like it has these sort of scalloped edges on it. I wanted to do a different one, but I really love the construction of this one. I'll link to the pattern down below. This is again from Lion brand. What it is, if you can see in the center, there's like a horizontal line going through here. And it's made on purpose so that you can adapt it based on how much yarn you have. And I'm super loving patterns like that right now. And so you start in the center. We'll hold it up this way so I have enough hands. You start in the center and then you crochet up this way till you've used half your yarn. And then you stop and you flip it over, right? And then you make this your new top, and then you just come this way and then crochet in rounds until you get to this part. And so I love that pattern. I just didn't love the stitch pattern for a little boy. And so I want to try making my own pattern. Have not done this before, although I found that with so many things I've improvised a lot, like adapted patterns, maybe is a better way of saying it. I've adapted a lot in these patterns. So I'm going to take this yarn, since I already know how big it is, and I'm going to base it off of this Lion brand pattern, but try to do like a more squared off instead of like a rounded feminine sort of stitch. I'm going to do one that feels square, feels just a little bit more masculine to me. Just my personal preferences, right? And how I think of things. But I want this to be one that he would feel comfortable like wearing to school if he wants to. Yeah, I'm going to start off this. I'm going to maybe go off of a checkerboard stitch pattern. I have a book that has some crochet stitches in it, so I'm going to look at that. But I'll come back periodically and show you my progress, show you how it's going. If you've watched my series on doing fingerless mitts, you already know that I'm not afraid to rip back some things and try again, especially if it's a smaller project. I had to pull back some on my sweater, like a lot. And that was really hard because I was afraid I was going to lose my momentum, like that emotional momentum to be able to keep going. This is small enough where I'm really, really hopeful it'll be great. Also, I know I can do it in half and see what it's going to look like. So if I have to rip back, it's not going to have to be ripping back to the beginning, right? I could do half and sort of look and see if I want to redo some before I do the second half and then know exactly what it's going to look like at the end. So I'm really excited about this, and we'll come back later and show you some of my progress and what I learned through the experience. All right, attempt number 1, we're going to pull apart. I'm going to hold it up here so you can see there's way too much like holiness in this fabric. I thought, oh, I'll do 3 triple crochets and then chain 3 and go across, and it just looks ridiculous. It looks like there's way more holes than fabric. The treble crochets, it's a long loose stitch, so they are really soft and nice. I might continue using those again, but we don't want this many holes. We want it actually to be warm. So just wanted to let you know, we're going to try again with that. I was thinking I do want a little bit of like holes in the fabric because then the yarn will stretch further. Just watch me pull this apart for a second. But I didn't want it to just be complete solid fabric. I think that's really boring looking, but it obviously needs to have more fabric than this. So, okay, I'll come back when I have something more to show. All right, and we're back to show you the progress on Peter's cowl. I'm actually almost done with it. You can see here, there's a little rectangular part that has sort of dipped down. I'm going to finish up that part for him. And he's been trying it on as I've been going, so we can size it just for him. I finally got the fabric the way I wanted it. So I'm really, really pleased with it. You can see here, there's a row of 3 triple crochets. It's like this little section here. And then it's interspersed with a hole here. And so it alternates, the 3 triple crochets in the hole, the 3 triple crochets in the hole, and every other row coming this way alternates as well. I'm really happy with how it worked. I tried a few different ways, but this is the first pattern I've ever designed, and I'm really pleased with how it's turning out. The fabric has a good squish to it. It falls really well. And I had originally thought I was going to use this pattern, the scalloped cowl pattern from Lion Brand. I ended up not at all. This was mine that I loved so much, made out of the same yarn. But I basically just ended up doing my own. I just tried a couple different stitch patterns. I found one that I liked. We kept trying the initial row around Peter's head to see what would be a good circumference. I would take it off, rip it out, start over again. So it's been a really work in progress, and it made me wonder, is this always how it is for people when they design patterns? I'm not sure, but we're really loving it. And so after I finish it, we'll come back and show you what the finished product looks like. Okay, here is the finished cowl that I made for Peter. I am so happy with how this turned out. It's the first pattern I ever designed. I had to restart it several times, but I'm really, really happy with the finished product. It's Peter's, right? I made it smaller, but it's still big enough to fit me. And now I'm thinking I really love this size. It's a much tighter cowl around my neck, and it feels super cozy this way. So I may just make another one for myself. And there you have it, a bumpy but ultimately successful project creation. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. As far as for my lessons learned, my first one is expect to have to rip it out and try again. I wasn't horribly startled that I had to do this, but I think next time I'm going to go into it really planning that in, knowing that that's going to be part of the process. Number 2 lesson learned is make a swatch of the stitch first. For those of you who are newer here, a swatch means just make a little piece of the stitch and see what it's going to look like in the fabric. I'd never actually done the stitch that I wanted to use. I had just seen it in the book and I was like, oh, this will be great. And it didn't turn out like I thought, so I had to redo it. So that's my tip number 2, is actually have done the stitch before. Tip number 3, use a yarn that you're familiar with. That one, nailed it. I used a yarn that I'd already had before, the exact same yarn and weight. That was great because I had an idea of how far the yarn would go and how it would work up, what size hook to use. I was good with all of that. Tip number 4, try out the item a lot. This I actually feel like I did a pretty good job with. I was always trying it on Peter, seeing how it fit around his head, pulled back because it wasn't big enough, right? Made it bigger. That worked a lot. So that was a tip 4. I'm going to definitely make sure I incorporate that into all of my pattern designs in the future. Tip number 5, view it as a creative process. I think I've been mostly thinking about the finished product at the end, and going forward I think I'll have a lot more fun with it and not have those little frustrations that I had during the time if I remind myself that the point here is the process of the creation. And then I think that's where I'm really going to find the joy in doing this for the future. So let me know, have you ever designed your own crochet or knit pattern before? I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. And I'd love to hear how your first one ever went, but I'd also love to hear what some of your tips are, because I think I'm definitely going to design another pattern in the future. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I'd love to know if you have any other lessons learned that I should incorporate. And if you took any value from the video today, I hope you'll like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you again soon.